A very good morning and welcome to Youth at SIEW 2021. My name is Marissa and I will be your MC for today's program. Today we are delighted to have students, educators and industry leaders here with us to participate and engage on energy issues that matter to us and our future. Before we begin, let me take you through some important safety measures and housekeeping information. For all guests here in MBS, a gentle reminder to keep your mask on at all times if you are not eating or drinking. And please inform the organizers if you are feeling unwell. Wi-Fi is available in the ballroom. Please refer to the login details on the screens. I would like to share with you today's agenda, which can be found on the screens. So it's about 9 a.m. on a Friday morning, and this is very early for some of you. To energize everyone's morning, we have prepared a short poll to gather your thoughts and impressions of Singapore's energy sector. To access the poll, you can scan the QR code and enter the code 87546917. If you are watching this on your mobile devices, please access the poll to share your thoughts with us before joining us back here again. So let me give everyone a few moments to join the poll. I see that we already have a number of participants who have joined, so we shall begin. The first question is, to meet Singapore's energy needs, what do you think is most important? Is it energy security, economic competitiveness, or environmental sustainability? Okay, results are slowly streaming in, and I see that a lot of you have chosen energy security, followed by environmental sustainability, and then economic competitiveness. Okay, let's move on to the second question. The second question is, which of the following switches in the Singapore energy story do you think would bring the greatest push in decarbonising Singapore's power sector? Is it natural gas, solar, regional power grids, or low carbon alternatives? I see that more than half have chosen solar, followed by low carbon alternatives, regional power grids, and then natural gas. Okay, let's move on to the third question. The third question is, what motivated you to take up a power engineering related course of study? Do choose the option which is your biggest motivator. Okay, the results are jumping. I see that 33% have mentioned potential job opportunities. Some of you have also mentioned the ability to make an impact on Singapore's energy future. It seems like it's a close fight. Okay, let's move on to the fourth question. The fourth question is, which statement best describes what you know about working in the energy sector? Again, do choose the option which is the most suitable. Wow, 63%, 60% have actually chosen meaningful, followed by exciting job scope and stable job. Okay, let's move on to the fifth and final question. The fifth question is, what is the top factor that will motivate you to choose a career in the energy sector? Do let us know which option is the biggest motivator for you. Okay, results have streamed in. I see a lot of you have also again answered meaningful job, followed by job security and career progression. We have now come to the end of this short poll. Thank you everyone for participating. There will be a short quiz on Singapore's energy sector at the end of this program. I strongly encourage you to participate actively. There are 20 $10 Grab food vouchers up for grabs for students who answer the questions correctly in the fastest time. So stay tuned and keep a lookout for the URL on screen. Now, we would like everyone present for today's Youth at SIEW program to share some of your ideas for advancing the energy transition. You may share your thoughts and ideas on Mentimeter. Before we begin the next segment, we have prepared 2 videos to share a little bit more about Singapore's energy sector, specifically on energy storage systems and digitalization.
With climate change concerns, we need to change the way we produce and use energy. The Singapore Green Plan 2030 was developed to tackle climate change and to accelerate Singapore's efforts towards our long-term net zero emissions aspirations. A key part of the Singapore Green Plan revolves around greening Singapore's energy sources. Solar energy is the most promising renewable energy source for Singapore. Solar deployment will quadruple by 2025 and will be 5 times that of today, with at least 2 gigawatt peak of solar by 2030. Solar output is largely intermittent, as it is dependent on weather conditions, such as the amount of sunlight and cloud cover. The Energy Market Authority is therefore focused on managing solar intermittency to avoid energy imbalance, which results in grid instability. Energy storage systems can transform the way we generate, store, and distribute renewable energy. It acts like a large battery and serves as a linchpin to manage grid reliability by mitigating solar intermittency. We have since committed a target of at least 200 megawatts of ESS beyond 2025. Deploying ESS in Singapore has its challenges. This includes land constraints, high ESS costs, and limited manpower capabilities to install, operate, and maintain ESS in hot and humid Singapore. We are working closely with the industry and research community to test-bed innovative ESS solutions in Singapore. This will enable us to deploy more ESS to support Singapore's solar ambitions.
Together with Panasonic and SIEW, we developed an advanced control algorithm to manage distributed ESS deployed at 5 HDB blocks. The algorithm can aggregate multiple ESS across different sites and intelligently dispatch their stored energy in response to the variability of solar power generation. This will help to manage solar intermittency and reduce the stress on the power network.
With ESS, we can increase the solar capacity that can be integrated into the grid by approximately 50%. This is critical to maintain the reliability of the power system as we scale up solar deployment. To manage land constraints, we tap on underutilized rooftop spaces for solar installation. Likewise, we are working with both public and private building owners to optimize existing building spaces for deployment of ESS.
Keppel is proud to partner EMA and Envision Digital to develop promising sustainable ESS solutions, which will be trialled on Keppel's Floating Living Lab. The lab is a first-of-its-kind floating test bed in Singapore for the advancement of new energy technologies in delivering cleaner and more efficient power. This is in line with Keppel's Vision 2030, which puts sustainability at the core of its strategy.
Envision Digital uses artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things to better manage the energy storage system. Our NOS will enable the monitoring of the storage health condition, control heat balance, and predict the battery failure, all resulting in an enhanced life cycle performance for the storage system. As Singapore has limited land capacity, the solution we have is to verticalize the energy storage in the same way housing is built here. This is done by stacking the battery container, reducing the storage deployment footprint by up to 40%.
These innovative solutions can be implemented in the marine industry. Technologies such as the ESS can also be replicated on mainland Singapore as land-saving solutions.
Singapore aims to deploy 60,000 electric vehicle charging points by 2030. This is a great opportunity for ESS. When EV batteries reach their end of life, they are often still good for power grid usage due to the difference in application. We are working with the local research community to develop techniques to repurpose these batteries for ESS.
We collect retired batteries from our partners and evaluate them for safety and performance. Through the integration with our battery management system, we will be able to extend the life of these batteries by another 5 years. This will reduce battery waste from EVs and the capital cost of ESS by 30%. This makes the implementation of ESS in Singapore a more economically viable and sustainable solution.
The future of Singapore's Green Plan is a whole-of-nation effort. Partnerships are key to deploying ESS in Singapore. EMA has launched the Access Program to support companies to pilot use cases, design business models, and facilitate regulatory and market approvals to operate ESS in Singapore. EMA has worked with academia, industry, and government agencies to develop a roadmap, standards, and a handbook for ESS. These are building blocks to guide the safe, reliable, and high-performing ESS deployment in Singapore's urbanized and tropical environment. We welcome you to join us on this journey to deploy innovative ESS solutions in Singapore. Let us work together for a more sustainable energy future.
Over the last 50 years, Singapore's energy sector has evolved to increase the deployment of solar and move from oil to natural gas for cleaner power generation. Today, the Singapore Energy Story sets the vision of how Singapore can power a sustainable energy future through 4 switches, where energy is reliably produced and efficiently consumed. Digitalization is a fundamental enabler of the energy story. Digital technologies in data analytics, process automation, and remote monitoring are able to increase efficiency, optimize resources, and enhance resiliency. The Energy Market Authority is working with the industry and research community to co-create new and innovative digital technologies through R&D.
The service corridor in Jurong Island consists of more than 200 pipelines spanning 25 kilometers and rising above 20 meters in some areas. In order to maintain reliable and safe operations of the pipelines, we need to inspect them regularly. This is time-consuming, labor-intensive, and costly. We have developed an autonomous drone solution to work round the clock and detect leaks autonomously through advanced sensors and analytics.
We want to enhance the capability of Semcom's maintenance operation through remote monitoring and autonomous detection of leaks. With this solution, the team is able to focus on analyzing the result of the leaks detection algorithm and act on them promptly.
Through our partnership with EMA, we aim to accelerate the development and translate promising technologies into business opportunities.
With our growing fleet of automated cranes and vehicles, there is a need to meet PSA's increasing operational demands for energy security, reliability, and efficiency.
Envision Smart Grid System allows PSA to optimize its energy usage and forecast energy demands in Pasir Panjang Terminal. This is done by ensuring the electrified port equipment from autonomous vehicles to energy storage systems able to communicate with each other through an interconnected network.
Transforming our port operations through digitalization will enable us to resolve complex sustainability challenges.
Singapore is projected to see its data center energy consumption increase by 2030. Managing energy demand and supporting this industry sector is thus of paramount importance. Our solution integrates advanced algorithms to quickly pinpoint bottlenecks in the system and target cooling at the specific points to improve energy efficiency of the data center.
Power collaboration with Yokogawa has allowed us to digitalize plant operations to automate complex operations. For maintenance, we are able to plan more effectively to reduce any equipment breakdown. Critical equipment operating data is collected wirelessly for diagnostic and also for us to monitor the equipment condition remotely.
with collaboration with EMA, Yokogawa as a technology company, and Tuas Power as an end user, come together to innovate new solutions, enabling Singapore to become more energy efficient and resilient.
These solutions are examples of how EMA has worked with the industry and research community to co-create innovative digital technologies to achieve a cleaner, more sustainable, and more reliable energy story for Singapore.
Those are indeed very exciting videos, which we hope have given you greater insights on the technological developments within the sector. Our final video features our inaugural batch of Energy Ambassadors and their sharing on the learnings and experiences from the Energy Ambassadors program. Let us watch the video now.
Hello, my name is Shamin. I hope that through this video, you'll learn more about the Energy Ambassador program. Enjoy!
Hello everyone, my name is Shupao and I'm here today to share with you one of my experience as an EMA Energy Ambassador. So there was this learning journey to Jurong Island where we visited the cogen plant. It's called Banyan Plant. And through the learning journey over there, I've learned about how cogen regulate their output throughout the day to meet demand and how the operation was like for a power engineer.
Through the Pulau Ubin learning journeys, I'm able to find out more about how a microgrid works and its benefit. By integrating solar PV with batteries, the microgrid delivers cleaner, more reliable, and cheaper electricity to the local residents. I'm fascinated that residents no longer need to rely on expensive diesel generators anymore.
Mine was SIEW at SIEW. I was able to talk to industry experts and meet like-minded youths aspiring to work in the energy sector in the future.
Through the face-to-face and Zoom sharing sessions, I gained clearer insights on how low-carbon alternatives like hydrogen can be implemented in Singapore and have a better understanding of the current open electricity market.
I enjoyed the experience in creating our Minecraft energy world. I feel that Minecraft is an excellent platform to visualize the various possibilities for Singapore's energy sectors and how we all need to work together for an energy efficient future.
Through the Energy Ambassador program, I'm able to meet like-minded friends and fellow engineers. Together, we have gone on powering life thrills. These are learning journeys to energy facilities which are not normally open to the public. I hope to lead my peers on such thrills in the future and help them better appreciate the energy concept that are taught in school.
I joined the EAP with very little knowledge about the energy sector. Throughout my experience as an energy ambassador with EMA, I managed to gain a deeper insight into the energy sector. During the deep dive sessions, I managed to learn about renewable energy sources like solar that powers our nation. In addition, I had the opportunity to join and listen in to the ministers as they discuss our energy future during the Youth at SIEW. This was a valuable experience that was only made available to me as an energy ambassador.
I had the opportunity to attend Singapore International Energy Week. This is an annual event organized by EMA for energy professionals, policymakers, and commentators to discuss on the best practices and solutions within the global energy space. I attended talks and forums which were valuable in broadening my perspective on the energy sector. I also helped out at the Youth at SIEW booth to share with visitors and students on the latest energy trends and EMA's plans.
Being a part of the EAP is a meaningful experience. I get to meet up regularly with my fellow ambassadors and build strong friendship. As we have a common interest in energy and engineering, it's refreshing whenever we discuss our views and ideas. I also have a chance to share what I've learned with my peers at events such as the use of SIEW and career fairs. Hopefully, these get you excited about EAP.
A wonderful experience in the energy world.
One word to describe the Energy Ambassador program is meaningful, as I learned a lot from this journey.
EAP has greatly enhanced my understanding of the energy sector.
Each experience has sparked my interest and motivated me to learn more about the energy sector.
One word for me to sum up this whole experience would be purposeful.
It is very heartwarming to know that there are so many youths passionate about and contributing to the energy sector. After the session, do take some time to visit some of the projects in the Youth Energy Showcase that are on display on the Powering Lives portal. You may scan the QR code on screen to view the projects. It is my pleasure to invite Ms. Lo Yen Ling, Minister of State, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, on stage to deliver her opening remarks. More slow, please.
Very good morning. Very happy to be back at Youth at SIEW, and this time round to be together with 50 guests here. Very good morning, Shi Chun, our CEO of EMA, and many of the guests, our students, some of the parents are here as well, and of course, educators and industry partners. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak at today's event. And ladies and gentlemen, our students, teachers, we all know electricity is essential in powering our daily lives. How electricity is produced and used is equally important. Don't worry, this is not a science lesson. And as the world moves towards a low-carbon energy future, Singapore's efforts to decarbonize the energy sector is a top priority. We will continue to push for cleaner energy mix to achieve our decarbonization goals. I believe this transformation presents a wonderful opportunity for us to push boundaries, to innovate, and to develop new technologies to propel our energy sector forward and also shape Singapore's energy future. And this is why our students, our youth, our teachers play a critical role in this journey. Dear friends, we launched the Singapore Green Plan 2030 a few months back, earlier this year. The plan charts ambitious targets for the next decade. We aim to catalyze sustainability as a core part of Singapore's future. And a key pillar of the Singapore Green Plan 2030 is energy reset. Energy reset. Now, what is that? Energy reset will change the way that Singapore produces and uses energy. At the same time, the energy transition will continue to be anchored by the 4 switches. And for those in this room, later on I'll test you, what are the 4 switches? Minister Gan Kim Yong talked about these 4 switches earlier this year. And firstly, they are the natural gas, solar, regional power grids, and low-carbon alternatives. We will move closer to our goals when each and every one of us, no matter how young, how old, boys and girls, men and women, regardless of what job we do and where we stay, we will all collectively move closer to our Singapore Green Plan 2030 goals when each and every one of us do our part by adopting more energy-efficient practices in our daily lives, starting with setting our aircon at 25 degrees. Or, when some of us, when we were younger, Sichun and I am disclosing your age. I think when we grow up, Jen, I think so, right? When we grow up, I think at night, back then, we really sleep without aircon. Yeah, and I think although many of us are so used to it now, I think we owe it to ourselves and the Singapore's energy future by adjusting the temperature slowly, 1 degree higher, letting our body acclimatize to it, right? Because if you look at the electricity bill, as far as the household is concerned, aircon actually contributes a significant portion. I'm saying this because each and every one of us can slowly become a smart energy consumer. That is important. I also earlier mentioned pushing the boundaries. Allow me to start with solar as an example. I know many students, you're very seized with solar as an energy source. It is one of the 4 switches, and I say this because I look at some of the polls that we did amongst the youth. You correctly identify solar as the cleanest source. Now, let me share this. Despite Singapore's land constraints, happy to share with you that we are one of the most solar-dense cities in the world. Since 2015, our installed solar capacity has grown more than 7 times. Now, what does this mean? It means that what we plan to do, and we target to deploy at least 2 gigawatt peak of solar power in 9 years' time by year 2030. And what is it equivalent to? It is equivalent to powering 350,000 households for a year. 350,000 households for a year. Now, a lot of you will know we start off by deploying the solar panel on the rooftop of the HDB flat. We have pushed the envelope. To overcome our land constraints, we are pursuing innovative ways of deploying solar panels, such as having solar photovoltaic systems on water bodies, like in Tengah. Later on, Ms. Jen Tan from Sembcorp will share with you. And I hope that in the future, we can work with your schools, ITE, Poly, and the universities, to bring our students to our Tengah solar farm. Google it as you are listening in. The Tengah solar farm, which was opened by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, is equivalent to 45 football fields of solar panel. And I think the solar panel that is harvested will be able to power 16,000 four-room flats. Right? So we do our part, not just by deploying on the rooftop, but also where possible on water bodies. And with technologies, we might be able to put it on other surfaces as well. The government is also committed to supporting the development of regional power grids. This will allow us to facilitate the development of low-carbon energy in the region and access alternative energy sources. As Minister Gan Kim Yong announced earlier this week, we are embarking on small-scale trials for electricity imports, and such trials will allow us to refine the technical and regulatory issues that may arise with cross-border power trading and pave the way for more such activities on a larger scale. To further reduce our carbon footprint for the longer term, we will continue to actively explore and test-bed low-carbon technologies such as hydrogen and carbon capture, utilization, and storage. I spoke about this a few days ago at the 7th Asia Gas and LNG Market Conference. And as part of these efforts, we launched the first grant call for the Low Carbon Energy Research Funding Initiative earlier this year. And let me share a little bit more about this funding initiative. This will support 12 R&D and demonstration projects in low carbon technologies totaling about 55 million Sing dollars. The projects cover a wide range of research topics, from studying the design of carbon dioxide storage in the ocean to developing sensors that detect hydrogen leakage. We all look forward to these projects boosting our sustainability efforts. And as we continue to transform our energy ecosystem, dear students, happy to share with you that jobs opportunities in the clean energy sector will also be created. This include new and expanded job roles in areas such as solar, energy storage system, ESS, smart grid, and hydrogen. Later on, you will get to hear from Mark and also Jen, who are leaders in their respective fields. They will share their views on the global energy transition and talk about exciting career opportunities in their sector. To build up a competent workforce, Energy Market Authority EMA works very closely with industry to nurture young talent like you. This year, I'm pleased to announce that our 3 Energy Industry Scholarship recipients, I think they are amongst us here. If I call out your name, sorry I didn't warn you earlier. If I call out your name, can you please rise so we can acknowledge you? This year, I'm pleased to announce our 3 Energy Industry Scholarship recipients, Brian Loh, Zi Yao. Brian, congratulations. Mohammad Harif bin Hidayat. Congratulations, Harif. And Wesley Wang Ting Hong. Congratulations, Wesley. Very proud of you 3. Our heartiest congratulations to the 3 of you, your families, and teachers on your wonderful achievement. Young people like you form a vital part of Singapore's energy future, and we look forward to hearing about your innovative ideas. We are also very grateful to the sponsors, Keppel, Merlimau Cogen, Sinoco Energy, and Tuas Power for helping to build out our talent pipeline for Singapore's energy sector. Now, allow me to share a little bit of insights about one of our ERS recipients, Brian. I understand from Brian, he is currently pursuing a diploma in mechatronics and robotics. Brian shared that what attracted him to the energy sector was the opportunity to work in the power plants, as he has always been very fascinated by how they are run and how they power our entire nation. So dear youth, you can play a direct role in our energy future, like Brian, Harif, and also Wesley. With climate change being a pressing concern, Brian aspires to help Singapore transition towards a cleaner and greener energy future. Brian hopes to make power generation more sustainable when he joins Keppel Merlimau Cogen in future. Youths like Brian, Wesley, and Harif, really, they will contribute to shaping our Singapore's energy future. And I hope the three of you, together with other youths who join the sector, will seize the opportunity that comes your way and contribute meaningfully to this fast and exciting sector, fast evolving and exciting sector. And so far, dear friends, the sponsoring organizations behind the EIS Awards have come from the key licensee in the power sector, such as the GENCO. GENCO means our generation companies and SP Group. Now, with the growth of low carbon energy sector, we are looking forward to expand the EIS to involve clean energy companies in areas such as solar, energy storage systems, and smart grid. This will widen the opportunities and help more companies gain a capable workforce ready to take on the good jobs in the clean energy sector. We encourage youths like yourself to consider a future in low carbon energy and power companies. It is exciting to be at the forefront of Singapore's energy transition. On this note, I'm very pleased to share that SIEW Group, a clean energy solutions provider, will be a new sponsor for the EIS from year 2022. Thank you to SIEW, and we welcome more companies from the clean energy sector to come on board EIS. Besides the scholarship opportunities, our youth with a keen interest in the energy sector also have the chance to contribute as energy ambassadors. The Energy Ambassadors Program, in short we call the EAP, was started by EMA a few years back in year 2018. On top of their studies, our students who are energy ambassadors work with EMA and engage in various activities to spread the word about the energy sector to their peers. Today, we will be recognizing their stellar efforts at the EAP recognition ceremony later. On behalf of MTI, on behalf of EMA, I want to say congratulations and a job well done to all our energy ambassadors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm also very pleased to announce the appointment of our second batch of energy ambassadors. The 11 strong advocates, each and every one of them have each demonstrated a passion for the energy sector. Later, you will feel their passion for yourself. We will hear from two of them. Tan Ki from SIT, Singapore Institute of Technology, and Zafir Arisha from ITE College West. They will share about their aspirations for our energy sector. Dear friends, as Singapore moves towards a fast-evolving, technology-driven energy future, many more opportunities in the green economy are opening up. So we want to encourage and welcome young people like you to join us in achieving the energy reset for a more sustainable Singapore. With your ideas, with your passion, as well as your ingenuity, I am certain that you can be a force for positive change in our energy sector. And we hope you will take the opportunity today to learn more about this exciting and promising sector and consider developing your future and career in this exciting space. Finally, a big thank you to our energy sector captains, all seated here in front. Very happy to be able to welcome you, have you join us today. Big kudos to you for your hard work and leadership in the energy sector. All the HR representatives and also our teachers, our educators in ITE, in the Polytechnic and the universities for your dedication and efforts in inspiring and nurturing our next generation of potential energy leaders. We look forward to our dialogue and exchange with the youth. On this note, I wish you a wonderful day ahead and stay safe, stay well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Moslow, for that inspiring address. Next, we would now like to invite Dr. Mark Lim, CEO of Eliana, to share more about his experience as an entrepreneur in the energy sector. Dr. Lim was awarded the Nanyang Outstanding Young Alumni Award, which recognizes NTU alumni under the age of 40 who have made outstanding achievements in their chosen fields. Despite his busy schedule, Dr. Lim also volunteers with non-profit organizations to engage and encourage students to pursue careers and courses of study in STEM-related fields. Let us put our hands together to welcome Dr. Lim, please.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning to everyone. Good morning, Moslow and CE, EMA, Mr. Nyam. My name is Mark, and today I'm going to talk about emerging energy generation systems to kind of give an overview of what we can look forward to, maybe 30 years into the future, 50 years into the future, and these are the systems, indeed the systems that your generation and those watching out there will have to look at as viable systems that could provide a future for us to deploy baseload generation systems sustainably for Singapore. So maybe just to give an introduction of who I am. My journey actually began as an educator with the Ministry of Education. I always believe in one thing, right? There's a saying that you have to choose a job that you love, and you will never, ever have to work a day in your life. And I'm so glad that over these years of my entire career, I was very lucky to actually begin a career in a STEM-related field, because what really inspired me a lot was in understanding how we could utilize understanding from physical principles to address the challenges of our generation. And I do believe that modern-day problems require modern-day solutions, and therefore we should really think about how we are able to utilize science and engineering for us to make the world a better place instead of continuously thinking of ways where we could weaponize them and destroy civilization accordingly, which is very real. So I started off back in the day as a teacher by day, scientist by night. I was with the Ministry of Education. So I actually taught in schools at Dunman High School for 2.5 years. And during that point of time, I graduated as a plasma physicist. So I was a physics graduate. I was really very intrigued in physical phenomena, understanding the characters of physical law, what makes things work. And I think this is very important, understanding why things work, because we will be able to utilize this as toolkits in our toolboxes to be able to engineer future systems that will alleviate the challenges that we'll face tomorrow. However, while I was teaching, understanding that I had a huge passion for also wanting to further research. I had to serve a bond, of course, and during the term of my bond, I couldn't further my studies. And this actually drove me to pursue a master's by night. So I was a teacher by day. I had to wake up at 6 in the morning, teach all the way until the afternoon, get my marking done. And at 6 p.m., I will arrive at the labs at NTU, begin my research. It will end somewhere around 12, drive home, get a little bit of marking done, admin done, lesson plans done, sleep at 3, and then wake up at 6 again. And these were really tough times. But again, remember the mantra, right? Choose a job that you love. It's this passion which drives you. And everyone that's pursuing your interest right now, if you love something that much, right, I'm very sure that whatever you love will drive you. And this is what kept me alive. I love teaching as well. I love engaging with youth, because more often than not, I learn a lot from them. They teach me as much as I teach them. In fact, there are many times where we bounce off ideas, and they really give me a lot of inspiration in taking my career to where it is right now. I'll elaborate a little bit about this later on. But just to give an overview, what I did by night was really energy systems as well. As a plasma physicist, I was developing high-efficiency solar cells. So we were looking at how we were able to make solar cells more efficient, more reliable, more robust, and more cost-effective. And this was what I was doing as a plasma physicist. Following completion of my PhD, so there was a gap down there, which I won't have time to talk about, I was appointed as the lead scientist with the Energy Research Institute at NTU, and I was looking at emerging energy generation systems for Singapore that could provide energy security accordingly. Some of the things that I was looking at a point of time include nuclear fusion, as well as geothermal systems accordingly. So it really gave me a very good idea of what the landscape really is and what we need to have in order for us to get there. I know that there's been a lot of talk about geothermal this week, very exciting discussions about geothermal, and I'll be happy to share a little bit more with you later on. Finally, towards the last few years, I've actually spun off a company, Eliana, and in this company, we actually developed emerging propulsion systems for satellites, allowing for them to fly lower, acquire data at high resolutions, communicate at lower latencies to allow for advanced insights that could serve various market segments, including energy, oil and gas, defense and security for that matter. So this is my journey from an educator to an entrepreneur, and I really want to mention this again, that you should really look at right now and asking yourself, what drives you? What keeps you awake at night? And understanding this, right, if you were to venture into these domains accordingly, nothing will tire you. And I'm sure you will be able to break new frontiers with these principles accordingly. So another aspect of what I want to talk about today will be careers in STEM. Of course, I think this is very, very important, and STEM has a huge role to play in ensuring that we can have a sustainable future for all of us. Sustainability, a buzzword right now. 10 years ago, when I was in school, right, sustainability wasn't even a buzzword. And now we talk about sustainability. Every time we go into a convention or conference, sustainability is a hot word. When someone says sustainability, everybody turns their head. It's sexy right now, right? But sustainability matters because this is the largest collective problem that your generation will have to address. These are future challenges that will impact your generation and the generations to follow. And understanding that the runway for us to develop and deploy these solutions is long, capability building must start now so that we will be ready with the knowledge, the know-how, the protocol, and regulatory processes in order for us to deploy them sustainably. So let me just give an example of why STEM-related fields are very important. Right, it will take you definitely from the depths of the Earth to furthermost frontiers in space, and this is exactly what I'm doing right now, right? So one of the things that I was involved in is looking at advanced geothermal systems. We're looking at digging deep to understand if we could really harness Singapore's only natural resource, which is our heat in our subsurface, to drive industrial applications accordingly. Are we able to utilize this heat for district cooling solutions, for water desalination, or even for sustainable baseload energy generation? So this is something that I am working on, and this is a prospect for many STEM graduates to look into. And a lot of people would think that it's just limited to people who are just looking into civil and environmental engineering, oil and gas, look at drilling and extracting heat. But there are also other interesting opportunities which can be served in this field. So for example, control systems, electrical systems, and how we can extract this heat, reservoir engineering, mechanical engineering. There are countless opportunities for people in STEM field to actually contribute to these endeavors accordingly. Next thing that I was developing was plasma fusion, essentially looking at how we can harness, or rather mimic, what the sun's processes are to bring sustainability to Earth. I'll speak a little bit about this later on when I transition from solar to fusion to geothermal. We'll talk about this later on. And finally, we are always looking out at exciting opportunities in space. And a lot of people will ask, hey, so why is space important? How is space relevant? How is going to the moon or how is going to the Mars important for us to be sustainable or grow as a more sustainable economy? And I think there's a misconception and there's a shift in mindset and how we think of, how we perceive space. When we talk about space, a lot of us out there, we think of NASA, JAXA, ESA, SpaceX, putting people on the moon, or rather putting objects on the moon and other celestial bodies. But we do see that as satellites become smaller and smaller, we use them for sustainability purposes as well, for us to track gravity profiles of the entire Earth, for us to do monitoring of carbon emissions in industries accordingly. And with satellites becoming more cost-effective to terrestrial customers, terrestrial businesses, we start to see a lot of terrestrial businesses slowly adopting utilization of satellite-acquired data, satellite-communicated data for their businesses accordingly. And of course, again, this is an entire multidisciplinary domain to go into. So, long story short, STEM is important, right? And I truly encourage you, if you are interested in solving and addressing the challenges of your generation, consider a STEM field, because you can never go wrong. What you learn today may not necessarily be applicable for tomorrow. So for example, in the systems that I was learning back in the day, it was very relevant in addressing these problems that we have today. But more importantly, by going into a STEM discipline, you'll be equipped with understanding the knowledge of how things work in space, the character of physical law as we call it, the rule book to how this universe is governed. And utilizing these facts, right, we will be able to come up with new ways and innovate and come up with solutions for tomorrow. STEM is important. So this is one big aspect of this talk. Okay? So let me just give a huge overview of this. Sustainability is particularly significant for Singapore. And why this is important for Singapore. As a land-constrained country, we do not have any natural resources, right? So yesterday at the Science Research and Innovation Fair at Bukit Batok Secondary School, where I gave an address, I mentioned that there were 3 security issues that we have to look into for Singapore for future. Number 1 is energy security, number 2 is water security, and number 3 is food security. For the purpose of this talk today, let's talk about energy security accordingly. It's extremely important for us. Number 1, I think first and foremost, as this is SIEW, right? It's important for us to understand what the future looks like for Singapore's energy future, right? And we are looking at exceeding, sustainability and green targets accordingly. But this entire ecosystem, right, can only be supported if there are good quality jobs and employment opportunities for people. This is extremely important because if we don't grow this ecosystem accordingly, then it will be harder for us to attract talent to go into STEM fields, to go into the pipeline that can serve this community accordingly. So as they always say, it takes an entire village to raise a child. For this sector, accordingly, it takes an entire ecosystem of IHL partners, of industry leaders, for us to grow talent, grow capability, understanding emerging technologies, and develop and deploy systems so that we in Singapore can have our own indigenous capability to stand out, and stand tall, and remain globally relevant on the international stage. So this is very important. Economic growth is important so that we can sustain the capacity for us to continue capability building. My journey with energy systems started out way back then, right? When I was a plasma physicist by training. I think I've been saying this like a broken tape recorder for quite a fair bit of time already. I'll talk a little bit about what plasma is later on, so little science lesson, but don't worry, I won't go too detailed into it. And one of the things that's very important for us as researchers in Singapore is to see how we are able to actually translate the technologies that we develop, the fundamental systems that we are researching on, into viable solutions for today. Because understanding that fusion or emerging systems probably take 30 years, 50 years before they become mature enough for us to even deploy them. We need to look at short-term and low-hanging fruits, we call it, easy targets for us to actually address some of the immediate challenges. And so, as many of you know, probably a decade or slightly more than a decade ago, solar was very hot, right? And as a plasma physicist by training, I wanted to do fusion. More on fusion later. I wanted to have work towards that goal, that holy grail of recreating the sun on Earth. But in order for us to do that, right, we needed to get our fundamental understanding of certain concepts right. So one of the things that we actually developed utilizing plasma systems was in deploying them for high-efficiency photovoltaic cells. And of course, the problems for photovoltaics in the early years was in driving down costs, increasing efficiencies, and there are key drivers for research. For example, how are we able to be viable enough for us to deploy this in a scale which makes sense, which moves the needle, and how are we able to solve issues regarding intermittency, right? My dealings with plasma systems also allowed me to look into circular economy, whether we can deploy plasma systems for decentralized waste management. And so this was something that I was involved in evaluating various systems. I was involved in plasma fusion, and eventually I was also looking at geothermal. So very much about this very soon. But back to the basics, there's been a lot of talk about solar, and Ms. Jen Tan is with us today. I think the expert in solar photovoltaics. I don't proclaim to be the expert over here. Work on certain systems, but naturally we have industry experts speaking about this. And we are all love solar. I think all of us over here love solar a lot. I personally love solar a lot. And we come to understand, right, that, back to the basics, we're all powered by the sun. We all exist because of the sun. Right, the creation of this solar system and why the Earth is where it is today really is because of the sun. And in fact, every energy source, if you think about it, really is solar-based, right? If we think about it, our fossil fuels, natural gas, it all came about because life existed. And life existed because there were prehistoric organisms that exist, and we are able to extract energy from them. If we're talking about solar, naturally we harness solar energy directly from the sun accordingly. If we're talking about geothermal, of course, that's the creation of the Earth. So going back to the basics, we all exist. We actually find that there's a fundamental cause of why we exist and how we are able to live. The fundamental all goes back to the sun. It's primarily responsible for all life on Earth. And because of that, as a result, we have fossil fuels, we have solar, we have food, and yeah. So what's the sun? Right. The sun essentially is a burning ball of plasma, right? And this is the core of it all, right? The fundamental technologies, we'll go into it very quickly. It's nuclear fusion. So I'll talk about nuclear fusion a little bit later on. But imagine a future, right? If we could, during our generation, or at least I hope during my generation, to see it birth, replicate these fusion processes on Earth. Right, if we could replicate this fusion process on Earth, definitely we can really power the future and make the world really resilient for the generations to follow. So there are two topics of my talk today, geothermal and magnetic fusion. Right, I will start with fusion. So the promises for fusion, we've been hearing this a lot, and I've been dropping this word a fair bit over the last couple of minutes, right? Oh, it seems that I only have 3 minutes, 14 seconds left. Essentially, fusion is the process of colliding two atomic nuclei together so that they fuse. And in the process, right, it gives rise to a lot of energy that is being produced. The promise of fusion is as such, right? It's truly sustainable, baseload, right? It's abundant in fuel. So 1% of an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of seawater can actually power Singapore for 1 year. So just some thoughts about that, right? So the fuel essentially is seawater, right? And 1% of the Olympic-sized swimming pool worth of it can power Singapore for a year. There's no long-lived radioactive waste. Fusion is not fission. So that nuclear fission monster is out of the equation and does not have that chain reaction, so which is uncontrollable. And so those of you out there who are worried about, oh, are we going to replicate, or is there going to be a danger of having Fukushima in Singapore? No, fusion is not fission. So that being said, right, how can we do it? Essentially using plasma fusion. So if I could go back to the basics again. Now, plasma, essentially known as the fourth phase of matter. Don't be afraid of this plasma jargon over here. Essentially can be understood from phase changes. In schools we learn about phase changes, right? Solid, liquid, gas. There are 3 phases of matter. Right now, I'm here to tell you that there's a 4th phase of matter, right? So solid, liquid, gas, we all understand this. And how do we move from one phase to the other? So for example, if we take the analog of water, in its solid phase, we have ice. In its liquid phase, we have water. And in gas phase, we have water vapor. How do we transit from one phase to the other? Just add energy to the system, right? So from the solid phase, right, you want to melt ice, You just put energy into it. It melts, it becomes water. Water, you add energy to it, it vaporizes and you get water vapor. Now, what happens if you add additional energy to gas? Right? At this instant, you are able to strip the electrons from the atomic nuclei itself. It forms a collective soup of charged particles, and this is so amazing because there is this sort of order in disorder which allows for reactions to happen, for us to control how these particles slam into each other, right, and interact with each other and cause fusion accordingly. There is an analog to this. We always think of a fire triangle, right? And this is something that we learn in safety lessons in schools, right? Oxygen, heat, and fuel. This is what is required to sustain any fire. So if you remove any of these three sides of the fire triangle, right, you will not have the fire. For fusion, it's the same. And this is the problem that we will have to address as physicists in order for us to make fusion happen, right? The fire triangle for fusion essentially is the density, the temperature, and the confinement time. Take apart any of these three, right, and you will not be able to sustain these fusion reactions accordingly. So this is called the Lawson's criteria. I will not go too deep into this. If there are questions, I'll be happy to take them. But this essentially is the engineering challenge of our generation. And suppose we can, achieve this condition. What next, right? So, okay, it makes physical sense for us to actually achieve these fusion reactions. And it's been proven. The physics checks out. It's just an engineering challenge at this moment. Amazing, right? The physics works. It's just an engineering challenge. And we have to put our heads together to understand that how are we able to get the energy out so we get the reactions ready. The next phase, we need engineers to actually design systems for us to get the energy out. We need engineers to go in to understand, to see how we can actually do on-site fuel breeding, handle the fuel on ground. And we need engineers to do QA, QC, and ensure that there's long-lived operations for us to truly get there and deploy the systems sustainably for operations accordingly. There are challenges, of course, and where we are right now, I always remember this, right? When my professor was back in school as a PhD student, his professor told him that fusion is 30 years away from now. Right now, back then when I was in school, right, my professor told me that it takes 30 years from now. And right now, I'm here, and I have to tell you, it's still 30 years away, right? It's still 30 years away before we can see a viable, demonstrator that can showcase that we could probably have fusion as a viable mode for power generation accordingly. But we are getting there. And we need people to carry on this torch. It's passed from generation to generation. And right now, I'm hoping that there will be people who will be coming up to the mantle and taking this torch and carry it along as we continue to develop these systems. Now, the future is not that bleak, right? Because fusion is getting a lot of traction right now. And we see this from a lot of private entities that are also developing fusion systems, right? And when they develop these fusion systems accordingly, they are small startups. Small startups move very quickly. We will be able to see something happen accordingly. So fusion startups will provide the opportunity for us to bring forward a timeline, maybe not 30 years from now, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, okay? And when that happens, right, I think capability building is extremely important. Because when technology matures, we do not want to be caught in a situation where we're like, oh yeah, fusion works, but how do we deploy them in Singapore? We don't have the blueprints, we don't have roadmaps for us to assess whether it's viable as a system for Singapore. So I always believe that technology can progress on a singular track. But on a parallel track, we really need to look at how we are able to consider the deployment of these systems in Singapore accordingly. But there's hope. Right? So there's prospects for fusion R&D in Singapore. When I began looking at fusion systems quite a while ago, it was something that was really a blue sky idea. But right now, we are very glad to announce that there's been very significant interest in fusion systems accordingly. A lot of things have happened for energy this year, and it's really, really extremely heartwarming to see how this has moved so far, especially for me when I've been looking at these systems, and back in the day, no one was talking about it, and starting to see there be traction and interest in these systems right now. It's really very moving. And I think these are exciting times for youths to be working in this field accordingly. Now, what are the tangibles in Singapore? MOU has been signed between NTU and CEA to build a capability building program, to establish a capability building program in nuclear fusion, plasma fusion accordingly. They are doing this through a chair professorship, and it's hosted by Nanyang Technological University. And even though we may not be able to have the technological tools for us to have a prototype, there's no prototype reactor right now, right? There's no prototype system that we can deploy right now. But this is important for us to build up a pool of talent, pool of scientists, pool of engineers, because these are the people who run the fusion plants when they become mature enough, right? So it is important for Singapore to get in the game for us to look into fusion, because it's contribution towards a global effort for us to realize fusion. In my previous slide, you have seen that the largest project in the world right now, scientific project in the world right now, is in fact a fusion system in France, Cadorage. And we in Singapore also want to get into the game. We are known to have very solid physicists, scientists, engineers, and surely we too can contribute towards this entire global effort towards realizing fusion. But more importantly, points 2, 3, and 4, it will allow for us to be ready to respond when technology matures and not get caught behind when it really is. Because I do believe that it might be a little bit too late for us to respond when technology is there, right? The learning curve is very, very steep, so we must begin now. It also allows for policymakers, regulators to be able to chart their own roadmaps for policies and protocol for development in future. I think this is very important. And finally, the last point really is to provide clean and sustainable future for the generations to follow. Another thing that I would like to talk about will be geothermal. I think there's been a lot of news about geothermal, and geothermal is very, very close to my heart, because I always like to say, when I led my first research group back in the day, the first thing that was thrown to me was geothermal. But who am I kidding? I didn't have a research group to lead. The research group was me, right? And myself, and I. There's nobody working with me. And we were looking at geothermal back in the day and understanding whether we could really deploy the systems. Why should there even be an interest in geothermal? We see this as a possibility because we observe hot springs, and some of you have gone to Sembawang Hot Springs Park. It's a nice place to be, to soak. I was there even before they redeveloped the park. And when we look at that, like, hey, why aren't we utilizing this heat for better purposes? I mean, recreation is good, right? But we could utilize this for real industrial applications. And Singapore is a country which does not have natural resources. We've been talking about this for so long, right? If we could actually deploy these systems, this really is Singapore's true, only natural resource. So we should look into it. But how can we move the needle? And why is this important for Singapore? The potential solutions for us include, apart from power generation, suppose there is, low heat quality throughout the rest of Singapore. So understand, Sembawang is hot, Admiralty is hot. What about the rest of Singapore? If we can drill deep enough, think about it. Are we able to have decentralized desalination systems for Singapore? Are we able to drill slightly deeper before we commission residential estates so that we can provide district cooling solutions for the entire estate? And we will only know if we are able to understand what the heat quality in Singapore is, as well as the technological enablers that will allow for this to happen. Based on previous studies, when I started on geothermal, very, very difficult, because it was deemed that geothermal was economically unviable. It seemed that I was going into a field that was pretty much dead. But keeping a close technology watch, understanding what are the solutions that we can deploy out there. And there are a lot of international companies and industries developing new solutions for geothermal. This assessment is slowly going to be overturned, and I am confident. The case for geothermal in Singapore, don't need to go too much. We have hot springs in Singapore. We physically observe hot springs in Sembawang, right? So I have personally stuck thermometers down there. It is hot on surface. If it's hot on surface, probably it will be hot enough if we go deeper. Challenge is understanding how hot it is in the subsurface. That's what we're going to do. The other aspect is, yeah, okay, sure, we have hot springs in Singapore, but what is the horizontal distribution and extent of the heat quality, and how deep is it? How deep do we have to drill? Does it make economical sense for us to drill deep and then extract the heat out? Well, numerical studies have also indicated that Singapore has world-class heat flow, and it's not just by one academic which we are affiliated with. No, these are international authorities that have done numerical simulations that indicate that Singapore has world-class heat flow. Right, one of the guys, Dr. Hendrik Jiawi, is currently with our research group and is working on the numerical simulations for the next phase. The goal really is to deploy geothermal anywhere, right? Now, we talk about emerging technologies, right? About how we can drill deeper, more cost-effectively. As a plasma physicist, I was looking at one of those domains earlier on, whether we can use plasma to go deep, whether it makes more sense as cheaper to go deep. There are advanced technologies for us to extract heat with a small surface footprint, but large buried infrastructure to extract the heat out. There are also other questions in asking us, how are we able to improve the extraction efficiencies, conversion efficiencies of such systems? These are all good. We are following them. But what's critical and what are irrefutable facts? Okay, we can choose which of these technologies we want to put together and piece together for Singapore to make it viable. But there are irrefutable facts. And the irrefutable fact is our geology. Because we can't change that. We can change technology. We can choose which system is viable for Singapore. But we can't change our geology. And therefore, if we were to be able to chart roadmaps for geothermal in Singapore, we first need to understand our geology. What is the heat at depth? What's the extent of this heat distribution for us to deploy this significantly? So there are hotspots. Okay, geothermal is good, and then there are challenges. So there's not something that we can deploy tomorrow, right? We are still conducting studies, and we'll have to tell you that there are challenges there. So for example, in our current geology, as hot dry rock, how are we able to deploy the systems? How do we drill and co-propose and deploy sites accordingly? And more importantly, what applications can we drive with these systems? Is it going to be district cooling? Is it going to be power generation? Is it going to be desalination? And we all will know only if we understand our geology. So I won't have a lot of time. I have been given the eye that I have to speed up my presentation a little bit, but we are doing something about it. And a team from NTU, in a few prongs, are looking at assessing Singapore's geology for us to understand the quality of heat that we have, keep a technology watch to have the ideas of what we can deploy in future accordingly. So I'm very excited for the team at NTU to be engaged in this accordingly. So there are three things that we really need to know. What's the geology on mainland? What's the geology in our offshore territories that is also unharnessed? No, there's not been a lot of work being done there. Perhaps we can look at the geology in offshore territories to assess geothermal potential down there. And we must, in tandem, keep a technology watch to understand which are the best systems that we can deploy in Singapore accordingly, given the gradient that we would have measured at that point of time already, given the understanding of the geology that we would have understood at that point of time already. So a core Singapore-led team, which is you guys out there, right, is critical for us to oversee these developments, right? And in summary, I think because of the interest of time, we live in exciting times. And I'd just like to add that the answers to tomorrow's problems will be found in the challenges that we are working today. But let me just share two quotes before I end my talk over here. The late Dr. Goh Keng Swee, also known as the architect of Singapore, was known to say, the only way to avoid failing, and a lot of us are very scared of failure. It's very cultural, right? I personally am very scared to fail, right? But the problem is, the only way to avoid failing is not to do anything, and that will be the ultimate failure. Because as I like to tell people, never try, never know, right? Scully tried, Scully tio. Okay? So if we only know, if we try, if we dare, we take risks, and we have to take action. This second quote actually comes from my advisor, Professor Louis Bao-Chuan. And he mentions, he brings this up a lot in every single talk. He will inspire youth by telling them that, to make a difference in this world, it's imperative for us to dare to dream, but more importantly, dare to do. Because a lot of us sitting out there, and we can see this with the project submitted to youth at SIEW, that a lot of you have exciting ideas that you want to explore. A lot of you have ideas that are close to your heart, causes that you think are important, worth fighting for, but you keep it within yourself. Or maybe you write a research article about it, you just talk about it. But what good are these blue sky ideas, right, if we don't follow up and take action? So it's important not only just to dare to dream, but to dare to do, take action, and bring this step forward, and so that we can have these solutions viably deployed. Modern day problems require modern day solutions. And it is your responsibility for your generation to rise up and address these challenges. And you have to follow through this with innovation. And at the core of innovation really is STEM, science and engineering. Right? So with this, I end my talk. I will be happy to take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. That was a very insightful sharing. May we invite you to take your seat on stage for the next segment, please. For this year's In Dialogue with Youth panel discussion, we have Moss Loh, Dr. Lim from Eliana, and Ms. Jen Tan from Sembcorp joining us. Ms. Jen Tan is the Head of Integrated Solutions at Sembcorp. She is responsible for growing the portfolio of offerings under Sembcorp's suite of sustainable solutions in Singapore and Southeast Asia. May I now invite Moss Loh and Ms. Jen Tan to join us on stage for the dialogue session. Before we begin the next segment of In Dialogue with Youth, we would like to invite the audience to use the Mentimeter to pose any questions you may have about the energy sector. Do state your name, school, and if your question is directed to any of our speakers. Moderating today's session will be Ms. Amy Goh from the Energy Market Authority. Over to you, Amy.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy and I'll be moderating today's panel discussion. I'm pleased to be joined by a stellar panel of speakers, Moss Loh, Dr. Mark Lim and Ms. Jen Tan. As mentioned by Marissa, we'll be using the Mentimeter platform, so in case you missed the QR code, we can show it out onto the screen once again. So for those who are ready, you can be able to click onto the Menti platform and then click the heart or the thumbs up and we can be able to see your responses. Great. We can see your responses right now. So I'll just do a bit of a recap. This morning we have heard a lot from Moss Loh about how Singapore is committed to reducing our emissions for a more sustainable energy future. Our energy transition will continue to be anchored by 4 switches, namely natural gas, solar, regional power grids, as well as low-carbon alternatives. All of these will be complemented by the drive for greater energy efficiency. From Mark's sharing just now, I personally learned a lot more about the research that is being done in Singapore on the newer technologies just like fusion, as well as geothermal. It's also fascinating to me. If you've got questions on these topics, you can feel free to key into Mentimeter, and then we will try to address them. So we heard a lot from Moss Loh as well as Mark. Perhaps we can find out a bit more from Jen. Jen, I understand that Sembcorp started off as a traditional power generation player, and in the recent years, they have expanded to cleaner energy. Perhaps you can share a bit about how Sembcorp is riding the energy transition, and then what's the plans for the next few years that we can expect?
Yeah, I think Sembcorp was traditionally a power generator. In total, we have about 14 gigawatts of assets globally. And as of today, we are actually about 3.3 gigawatts is in clean energy, both wind and solar. This year, our slogan, everybody is at our mouth, right? Brown to green. So that is our slogan in Sembcorp this year. Moving forward, our strategy is moving from brown to green. And that is also in alignment with Singapore's SG Green Plan, right? We are targeting, I think, by 2025, 10 gigawatts of clean energy. That's Sembcorp as a company. But today is a youth program, so I'll share a little bit about my personal journey with Sembcorp. I joined Sembcorp from REC. REC was a solar panel producer. I think a very big investment by EDB. They brought the Norwegian solar panel producer. So that's my beginning of my journey in renewable energy, where I joined REC back in early 2009. Then I came to Sembcorp. I was one of the first employee for solar. So I started in 2016, January 2016. 2017, I had the second employee, right? So we started with 2 and 2 megawatts. We procured REC's Tiger Brewery project. I think Miss Low was the guest of honor, and she did the opening. So when she was there, I was in REC. Then later, I came over to Sembcorp.
Jen, you must tell them that it's not just deployment of the solar panel on the rooftop.
Yeah.
All the Tiger beer that's being bottled there,
Yes,
it's
it's
powered
brewed
by
by the sun.
solar.
Wow. Correct.
So when you
Nice.
enjoy your beer, you know that's net zero.
Correct. So if you go to NTUC and buy beer, right, the Tiger beer can has got at the back brewed by the sun. So you drink also feel good. It's clean energy produced. So that was my first 2 megawatts. And then to me, that was history. So we started with 2. Today we are close to 400 megawatts, all being developed in Sembcorp. And the interesting fact is so started with 2, me and another engineer, and today I think I have about 120. So 120, 95% is local Singaporeans, but the interesting thing is I'm the oldest. I'm not that old because Miss Low is around the same age and Mr. Nyam.
We were talking, you were saying that actually, of course, Amy is the youngest, but Jen has a key point. The average age of your team is very young.
Yeah, very young. Out of 100 or so, 120 to be specific, right? 20 are interns. So we have got a very strong replenishment of interns from all IHLs. But out of the 100 permanent employees, more than 55, around 55 are actually below the age of 30. 30 to 35, I think still considered youth. Under 35 is youth, right? So about more than 50% is youth. So when I started my team, a lot were young people, young graduates. I think I started off with 15 young graduates. And I think the key is what I'm going to say is very important. And also, when I was invited to this panel, I've also been very excited because I really believe in investing in the youth. So in my last 4 years, I spent a lot of time with ITE and Singapore Poly and also NUS and NTU to see how we can develop the capabilities. And why so? I think as I was growing the company from two engineers, 2-person, I think a lot of challenge is I couldn't find local capabilities. That was an issue. And where can I get them? So, okay, solar is not as difficult as power plants where we really need hardcore expertise, but I believe we still can develop. And the best is to invest in our own resources, right? Which is building people from their school days and making sure that they understand solar and all that. So as part of our responsibility in Solar Nova program, so we spend a lot of time to outreach to ITE, to Singapore Poly, as well as to secondary schools to preach about solar. I think we have then made sure that we have a consistent recruitment of interns to be part of our program. I think Ms. Low and Moss Low and Dr. Lim did mention a lot about the Teng Ye project. Interesting fact, every day we had about 100 to 110 workers on site. Okay, but 10 of them were interns from NTU, Ngee Poly, NYP, and ITE. So we had 10 students with us all the time doing the construction. That's something to be very proud of because it's a dual project for Singapore. It's 60 megawatt. It's over 45 hectares of land. And these 10 students actually had the experience of laying the LV cable. They actually tied the mooring and sinkers in place. And they had the chance to push the arrays from land to water. I think not easy to get this experience, but we had 10 of them. We also use, after the plant is operational, we have 5 interns regularly with us to look at electrical fault, to do maintenance and all that. And what's the reason for that? The reason is so that we can develop capabilities, and when they graduate, they will come back. as Moslow introduced, there's two energy ambassadors. I'm very proud to say that one of them was an intern with Sembcorp, Mr. Tan. And I hope that he joins us in 2024 when he graduates. And today, as I speak, I already have 3 graduates from SIT who had interned with us and came back to join us as project engineers. So this ecosystem that we are building, to me, is very important to build local capabilities so that we can actually help to contribute to the Singapore Green Plan. I think for the Green Plan to be successful, the key is resources. Not only natural resources like the geothermal, sun, but we need people to bring the program forward and sustain it so that there's people to run it, not only in engineering, but in financing, in commercial, in business development. Of course, in our area is technical sales to begin with, but with all this experience, we can also contribute a lot to the commercialization of things. So I couldn't emphasize more that the contribution to the success of this industry and journey is really how do we build capabilities from the young. So we not only emphasize on interns coming to us, we have also worked very closely with ITE to build a sustainability center, where this center actually welcomes students, also people from secondary school or primary school to go and tour the place to understand. And also we actually have programs for mid-career change where they go there for COC. COC is Certificate of Competence programs, so that we can also get mid-career change persons to join our industry. And another exciting thing that's coming up is I'm building a playground. We call it playground is because engineers, the things engineers play and we all play is different. So they like to play with panels, battery storage, how the new kind of inverters. I mean, in those days, when I first joined the industry, an inverter is just an inverter, convert DC to AC. Today, the inverter got special function, got IV tracing, got fire detection, got this and that. So these are the things that as we go further into the technology, Dr. Lim was telling me perovskite is the next in thing, building integrated. So for Singapore to go majority solar, I think a lot of technology and innovation needs to come in, and we need to invest a lot of time on the youth to build these capabilities from within Singapore to journey together. So I think that these are the 2 things that we are working very closely together with the Institute of Higher Learning. So the last point I have to make is Tengeh Reservoir is something that I'm very proud of, because I think we spent a lot of time, a lot of effort to really build this 60 megawatt peak plant during COVID. And as we were pressed for time, we did a lot of innovations. Like, for example, we used to manage only 1,000 panels per day. It increased to 2,000 because we had the interns together with us to innovate a custom-built jig to improve the speed. I think the interns also say, wow, do faster, end faster, then can go and play faster. So wow, they work very hard to innovate this jig, and actually our production rate went up double. So we managed 2,000 pieces a day, and we actually completed construction in about 6 months. I mean, pure construction. So this site is done during COVID situation when we were pressed for time and we didn't have much resources. We made use of ideas. So actually, if not for these youths, we may still be going the traditional method and spend a lot of time on that. So I think very thankful that the IHLs actually supported us with all these interns. And my last point is I welcome anyone who is interested to see the site, because that's something that we are very proud of. And I've got this boat called Sunshine. Some of you have been on it. Sunshine is a solar-powered boat. From the time it was launch, I think sometime in June, we only charged once. After that, it was powered by the sun. So it's a nice boat. It's a 12-seater. Those who have not been traveling, no chance to go Chatuchak Market, come to Tengah. We bring you for a boat ride. It's 30 minutes. It's free of charge, and you can learn about clean energy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. It sounds really great. I think I'll sign up for your boat tour. Well, I also want to take a look. I think I just want to take some of your points further. You were mentioning a lot about, the importance of building the capabilities of the youth. I think one question that the audience might be thinking is, we hear a lot about the energy transition and all about the technology advancements, but what then is the role of the youth in advancing the energy transition? Perhaps, Moslo, I could invite you to share a bit more on this.
Thank you. I must say that I know Jen for quite a while, and I will respond to Amy's question. And as you can see, whether it's Jen or Mark, their passion is very, very palpable. And I really want to echo what they have mentioned. In this very exciting energy transition, really, each and every one of you, our youth, will play a critical part. Earlier on, Jen has mentioned more than 92% of the staff are Singaporeans.
95.
And at this juncture, we are really at an inflection point where you can really shape Singapore's future, not just energy future. And you are central in not just as a worker, as a staff deploying the solar panel, but potentially as an innovator, like Mark, developing new technologies. So just a few months back, I was with Amy, and because we were at the Singapore Energy Grand Challenge Youth, I was very, very impressed with the high quality submission by our youth, some from secondary schools, some from IHLs, etc., using Minecraft, right, to design Singapore's low carbon future. Some of you are smiling. I know Minecraft because I have two boys, 14 and 16. They are very much into Minecraft. Don't be surprised, some of your Minecraft idea will come to fruition. The second one, I've looked through the ideas that were submitted for youth at SIEW. If you have not, please check it out, because this time round is open for your feedback and comments all the way till 26th of November. Happy to note that we have 2 from ITE, 2 from RP, 2 from SP, 2 from TP, 1 for NTU, 1 from SIT. Very high quality submissions, and I know that a few are already submitted to SEMCORP for review. Don't be surprised, in time to come, it may be commercialized. So I think really don't belittle your potential in contributing to this important energy transition. And other than the Singapore Energy Grand Challenge youth, as well as the youth at SIEW, I think there are 3 more ways in which each and every one of you as a youth can contribute. Number 1, I mentioned earlier, every one of us as a smart energy consumer, making smart choices, choosing energy efficient appliances so that collectively we can reduce our demand. That's one. Secondly, we talked about Dr. Lim's passion was really overflowing, and he has a very nice story as a transition from educator, teacher, to research, to starting his own startup. I remember last year at the same platform, I shared a platform with Mr. Kelvin Lim, CEO of DuraPower. Dear students, Google DuraPower, you will realize that they are the first company that we have extended green loan to. Just a month back, in my MTI capacity as well, I joined Minister Gan Kim Yong. We launched the Enterprise Sustainability Program. It's $180 million support to support our SMEs to develop sustainability capabilities, right? And at the same time, a few days later, we launched the Enterprise Financing Scheme Green Trade Loans. And DuraPower, the speaker for last year's Youth at SIEW, is the first recipient, $6 million green loan, right? So anything is really possible, right? So first one, as a smart energy consumer. Second, potentially as an innovator, doing research. Earlier on, I talked about the $55 million of grants that were given under the Low Carbon Energy Research Funding Initiative. And third way, join SEMCORP or join Dr. Mark Lim's team and many other companies within the ecosystem, whether it's Genco, whether is it, for example, DuraPower, or maybe even SunSeep, the various companies in this ecosystem, and play a direct role in shaping our energy transition and our energy future, like Harif, Wesley, and Brian. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Moslo. I think just now you were mentioning about the projects and how students can be able to share more about their innovative ideas. Maybe I'll just open up to the panelists. I understand that you have seen the Youth Energy Showcase. Were there any projects that caught your attention? Maybe we start with Mark?
Yeah, so I think I've reviewed some of these projects, and one of the projects that actually stood out was how we are able to do integrated urban farming, vertical farming, right? And I think this is very interesting because it addresses some of the issues that we're talking about. I think inside the proposal, it looks at whether we are able to capture power, from sun. But on top of that, right, apart from addressing that energy issue, we are also looking at food security as well. So I thought that was very interesting. So one of the things that we start to see becoming more evident right now is the deployment of technologies for us to monitor systems. And this can be applied in multiple domains, apart from just in the energy sector itself, being able to monitor large-scale systems, energy generation systems. We start to see them being deployed in agriculture for farming. We start to see them being deployed in manufacturing processes. It streamlines the entire process. But at the same point of time, a lot of us might have that concern, about technology, the fear of technology, eating up jobs. But my opinion on this, right, is the latter. And in fact, it allows for more streamlined work processes to be out in the production line, but at the same point of time, it does not eat jobs because it allows for higher quality jobs to be created and more opportunities for growth for our sectors accordingly. So I think this is very important. But I think the question is whether I have a question for them or some interesting points that I've seen.
I think sharing interesting points would be good. Or maybe actually I noticed that there's a question from Zoom, and it's actually related to the vertical farming project. May I invite Daniel to unmute himself? You can just introduce which school you're from and also ask your question on your project. Daniel, please.
Okay, hi. Good morning, Ms. Moslow and esteemed panel. I am Alif Daniel from Temasek Polytechnic, and my team submitted a showcase project on the urban farming with a twist. So my question is, from our project, we faced challenges in maintaining the setup and started using ThinkSpeak IoT for data collection. So what other aspects of data analytics should we consider?
Maybe open up to the panelists. If you've got any comments on data analytics and processes, you feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I think when we first started off solar, it was just inverter data, Excel spreadsheets, and a lot of work trying to churn out the information. Probably the same challenges that Daniel is facing, what to do with all this data, how to collect it. As the solar and the renewable technology advances, I think we become very dependent on data analytics. So in Sembcorp, we are going to manage 2,700 roofs, and 2,700 roofs have 2,700 systems. I think if I use Excel spreadsheet, not enough rows to manage all the data. So we have to go into data analytics. So to answer the student's question, data analytics, first, you must understand the purpose. Why do you need the data for? Is it for you to fertilize the plants? Is it for you to control the water input? Is it for you to control the energy? So understanding your input criteria is very important. After that, you will deploy the correct meters, and then you collect the data and use that for predictive maintenance or predictive monitoring to teach you or the system to manage the project.
I've got some insights on the hardware segment as well as the data segment. So I thought that this was a very interesting project. I mean, for us to scale this accordingly, your question was on the data segment, but data is really empowered by acquisition of the data, which is the hardware. The hardware is the heart of the entire project, right? Of course, the data is important. So my insights, right, will be in two domains. First, let us talk about the hardware. Hardware are enablers, right? And one of the things that is very important as we start to scale projects from sketch to scale, being industry deployed, is life cycle assessment. Whether these sensors will be resilient in the environment that we'll be deploying them in representative environments. So we call this, we measure this in terms of a technology readiness level. So the full TRL9 is having them really deployed operationally. But for us to move to that phase, we must also consider assessing whether these sensors will be able to be deployed for a long term in the environment that they are in. So life cycle analysis is extremely important. I do understand that some sensors do face issues on corrosion or oxidation, so these are things which are worth looking into. But the second aspect will be on data itself. Why data is so powerful and why data is so insightful, right? It's very tangible. Now, in terms of sensors, right, we can use new sensors, in fact, multispectral imaging cameras, to actually see what our eyes can't see, resolve what our eyes can't resolve, so that when we look at this, as you're starting to grow your crops, right, apart from the yield itself, the other aspect is in quantifying whether it tastes good or not, right? So we don't talk about this usually. We talk about, oh yeah, we can grow quantities of food, but we don't talk about whether it tastes good. So data analytics is very important because apart from just getting out raw data and processing this, and Jen has talked about this earlier on, what are you going to do with your data? Are you able to fuse it with user input, whether these things that you grow actually taste good? And then use AI processing algorithms to essentially come up with ways that you can optimize process for growth, not just for quantity, but for quality as well. So these are my insights.
Thanks, Mark. That's really insightful. I hope that's useful for Daniel and his team, and they can take their urban farming project even further. We have some questions that are coming on from Mentimeter. Quite a few of it's talking about job opportunities and the relevance between their education and the energy transition. Maybe I will be able to show some of the questions on the screen. You can take a look. One of it is on what are job opportunities for the future renewable energy industries? Are the tertiary education institutions ready to equip our youth with matched skill sets? Another relevant question is the mechanical engineering related to the energy and the power industry? Or are we only really looking at electrical? So we can talk a bit about that as well. And the last question in this segment is from a student from ITE. He or she is sharing whether participating in local competitions with his or her clean energy ideas, and whether can explore clean energy from there. What are the scholarship opportunities? Maslow, maybe you can just share your thoughts on this.
Thank you. These are very, very good questions. I'm so happy that the students and the youth submitted these questions. I want to share a few points. I mentioned that I know Jen for quite a while. Let me share with you that where I serve is in the western part of Singapore, and we've been working with Sembcorp to deploy solar panels on the rooftop of the HDB blocks, a few hundred, I think about 600. By now, they have deployed solar panels on more than half of those blocks. And you heard they are going to do that for about 2,700 blocks. Huh? Yeah. And 1 year ago, I remember both of us had a very fun time conducting jobs fair. It was a jobs fair dedicated for sustainability. We curated a few hundred eco jobs. Why? Because we were just saying, if we are going to deploy solar panels on the HDB blocks in the western part of Singapore, we do hope to be able to attract people staying in the western part. Of course, we welcome people staying in the northern and eastern part and other part of Singapore to join as well. But we hope to bring the jobs to the people in the community as well. That was really why we curated it that way. And we worked together to curate that. And we also, Jen and her team brought their partners on site. We were so touched to see long queues, of fellow Singaporeans of all ages coming for the interview. Very good response for the different type of jobs. But we also had a fun time playing with the solar panel. Jen used the word playground. So they brought solar panel to the job fair. Job fair, usually we have exhibits, right? And you will have exhibits of the companies and the jobs. But seeing is believing, so they brought a few pieces of the solar panel, and there were two things that left a very deep impression on me. She explained to me that the new type of solar panel that they brought are galvanized steel, am I right? And it is lighter. It is lighter than the first generation. Okay, that's one example. The second example, she showed me the type of drones that their staff will be using. Why am I sharing these two insights? Dear youth and dear students, I'm sharing with you that the companies in the energy sector, we are all working collectively together with Energy Market Authority to see how we can redesign the jobs of today for you, so that you will be able to take on smarter jobs that really optimize your skill sets and your time. So in time to come, the solar technologies, by the way, the term is called solar technologies, are people who go up to check on the solar panel. You may not need to go up and check panel by panel, etc. Now I think you need to scan every cell, but I understand that with the drone, etc., that job can be made more efficient from a safe place, etc. So that's one thing. We are always leveraging technology to redesign the jobs for you. So even as you hear the nature of the jobs today, rest assured that it will become smarter every day. The second thing, the last question, I really like the question from a student from ITE. I was just thinking back, if I'm a teenager, if I'm your age, what will I do? What I will probably do is to maximize every vacation, every holiday, to try to get a stint with Sembcorp or Alena or any other companies. And even it's just a couple of weeks, whether are you paid a stipend or not, that really counts in your CV, right? And even if, whether or not you will immediately qualify for a scholarship, I think that to me is not the key thing at that point in time. Life really is a marathon. Every internship stint that you accumulate really will beef up your portfolio of skills. Jen already mentioned, hope Ki will come back. It's in front of so many people. You better tell her, yes, ma'am, 2024, you better join Sembcorp. And as you can hear from Jen, most of her interns stay on. That is a hallmark of a very progressive employer. They truly curate the internship to really make it work for the students. So even the internship may lead to a permanent job. So I want to circle back to what Mark said. If you choose a job that's your hobby, you don't have to work a single day. One of the best quote that I really like and drives me until today is a quote by Frederick Buchner. Your vocation in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need. Your vocation in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need. Vocation is not job. Vocation is your calling. So I think what Mark and Jen is trying to challenge each and every one of you is what drives you, what motivates you. It's probably aligned to your strength, your interest, your talent, your passion. And when you identify that, you will be able to jump out of bed to go to school every day. Eventually, you will also jump out of bed to go for work. And you will be, that will give you the extra feel in the context of energy, to really go for that extra mile. And whether you're studying in Poly, ITE, rest assured that we are supporting you with ECG, Education and Career Guidance Counselor. Reach out to them on advice on what are some of the available internships, how you can beef up your portfolios and also your CV for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Moss. Would Mark also like to share about what kind of graduates are you looking for in your company?
Yes, I think I will speak wearing two hats, right? One's with the capacity of my company, and the other one is with my involvement with Nanyang Technological University. But both of it sort of converges, right? So, we need multidisciplinary roles for various sectors. In every single sector that we are working in, we need multidisciplinary engineers. So every part, this entire system, as we call it, HR is also a system, right? Human resource is also a system, if we can think about it this way. The system is made up of different constituents. And just to clarify one of the points that was brought up earlier on, for a mechanical engineer, is there any relevance to working in, let's just say, the energy generation sector? I would say yes, definitely. Because when we are deploying these systems on a large scale, we're looking at structural analysis, we're looking at drawings, we're looking at site design, we're looking at systems engineering in general. There is a part to play for every single engineer accordingly. I would also like to address a remark about internship opportunities that was brought up earlier on. And I think internship opportunities are extremely important. In the capacity of my company, we host many internships, and I would say the number of interns that we have at our company is more than our full-time employees, right? So Jen was talking about the number of interns that she had to deploy the floating solar project at Tengah. But at Ileana, we actually have interns, and these interns build hardware that will actually fly in space. Can you imagine building hardware that will go to space? Now, why am I bringing this up? I am bringing this up because many interns, or rather people who are in school at this moment, would think that, hey, maybe I'm not equipped with the skill sets that are required for me to make a contribution to the organization. But this is very wrong, because there really is a role for everyone to play. And for every credible organization, I think one of the things which I value the most is talent development. We always believe, right, that people are the true assets of any organization, any company. Even my company, this is something that I truly believe in. The company and organization is built by its people, not the infrastructure they have, not the assets that they have. And in fact, people are the true assets of any organization, because they are the assets that will never devalue over time. But if you invest in the people, you give scholarships, you give training opportunities in the form of internships, they grow with you and they add value to the company. And this is what we truly believe in. Yep.
Thank you, Mark. I'm really heartened to know, yes, people are the assets that do not devalue. I wish I had more time to continue this segment, but unfortunately, we have to wrap up our discussion soon. Just take one last question on Zoom. I understand that Kin Ming has a question. May I invite you to unmute yourself?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Low and esteemed panel of speakers. I'm Keen Ming from Temasek Polytechnic, one of the energy ambassadors. My question is, do you think the transition to renewable energy will be smooth, or will there be inevitable challenges along the way? If so, is it possible that the challenges come from the citizens' opposition?
May I invite Moslo if you'd like to give some remarks on this question?
A few days ago, I was just at the 7th Asia Gas and LNG Market Conference. Ralph was with me. And after I made my speech, I remember the American speaker leaned forward and said that I'm very happy that you included this line, and that line says this: our energy transition journey will be fraught with challenges. I think we in Singapore like to be very honest. Yeah, we like to share the hard truth as it is. Earlier on, I mentioned that as we advance our energy transition, we will harness the supply based on the 4 switches. I think by now you remember gas, and solar, regional power grid, and low carbon alternatives. Even regional power grid, for example, it's been announced by Minister Gan. It's really about how do we put in place substantial backups to cater for any possible disruptions that could arise from damage from the subsea cables, etc. And if you ask me, imported electricity, frankly, it sounds very good, but it also depends on a lot of things. It depends on the distance of our source location. That's one. And you think about it, actually, it may not be cheaper than the electricity produced by natural gas. Why do I say that? Because actually, the full cost of negative externalities have not been costed in. Right? It has not been costed in. I think a lot of the industry practitioners are here. So we are really maximizing based on this portfolio of 4 switches. And as you can see from the past few weeks, the Asia LNG spot prices have seen some volatility. So I think it's really about that energy trilemma that Shi Chun and team has always tried to toggle. And what is the energy trilemma? Affordability, reliability, and security. I know students, we are all very serious with solar. Mark have also shown something, everything comes back to solar. But I think it's important to remind ourselves that, as we deploy solar power is actually, the nature is intermittent. And that's why the importance of ESS, the energy storage system, right, is very important. We need to ensure our grid resilience. So I think that's something to bear in mind, that even as we journey towards our energy transition, we must remain flexible and remember that energy trilemma. Thank you.
Thank you, Moss. Yep. You heard it here today. So people are really our assets. And if you are looking out for your dream and your passion, we always encourage you to look for it and to go ahead and to achieve it.
Amy,
yes, go ahead, Moslo.
Take 20 seconds. I want to really credit Amy because I've been working with her. She is quite the key architect amongst the team in EMA for the Singapore Energy Grand Challenge Youth. She speaks about Minecraft with a lot of passion, right? So, Minecraft players are not just guys, but girls too. And Amy went to SP, right? And after that, she went to pursue electrical engineering, yes, in uni. And Fortunately, EMA offered her a scholarship, and this is her 6th year of service. And she's on a public stage moderating a session like this. So, dear students, other than joining the private sector companies in the ecosystem, do consider a career in Energy Market Authority, right? And follow the footsteps of Amy and many other officers. You will be empowered to really co-shape the strategies for the energy sector alongside with the industry captains and the leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Moss. I hope that all of you have gathered great insights from today. So there are many job opportunities in the energy sector for youth. And I hope that you'll be able to translate your passion as well as your innovative ideas into reality so that we can advance the energy transition together. Thank you once again, Moss Low, Dr. Mark Lim, and Ms. Jen Tan. I'll pass the time back to Marissa.
Thank you for the engaging dialogue session. May I invite the panelists to take your seats in the ballroom, please. I'm sure all of us have many takeaways from today's session, and I hope the discussion has further spurred and inspired you to join the energy sector to co-create Singapore's energy story. Up next, we have the Energy Ambassadors Program Recognition Ceremony. The Energy Ambassadors Program, or EAP, aims to nurture youths who are passionate about energy-related issues. As part of their 2-year term, Energy Ambassadors can look forward to participating in a series of sector-wide outreach events and learn about exciting developments in the energy sector. As shared by Moslow earlier, we would like to take the opportunity to recognize the efforts of the inaugural batch of Energy Ambassadors who are tuning in via Zoom. We hope you have benefited from the program and will continue pursuing your passion. Today, we have 2 energy ambassadors, Ki and Zafia Arisha, to share more about their interests in the energy sector and motivations for joining the EAP this year. Let us welcome Ki from the Singapore Institute of Technology.
Good morning, Moslow and distinguished guests. My name is Ki, and I'm currently a Year 1 undergraduate student pursuing my Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical and Power Engineering at SIT. So to start off, let me share a little bit about myself and my journey in pursuing my passion in the renewable sector. After my O-levels, I enrolled into the Common Engineering program at Temasek Polytechnic, where all students are required to complete their first year of Common Engineering studies before choosing a specialization for their diploma study in their second year. When it was my turn to choose my specialization in engineering, I pondered deeply about the different engineering fields and which path I should embark on for my first future career. I remember having a conversation with a taxi uncle about the different engineering specializations that I could pursue for my diploma studies. And the taxi uncle told me this: young man, while you're young, you should aspire to do things that can contribute positively to the society and the industry and improve the lives of as many people as possible. That comment stuck with me, and I made the decision to pursue my diploma in clean energy. I believe that I will be able to apply my knowledge and skills acquired from my diploma studies to the clean energy sector in providing affordable, sustainable, and reliable energy for Singapore. Furthermore, I will be able to lead the change and contribute to the reduction of carbon emissions to mitigate climate change. So, what made me decide to take up the role of Energy Ambassador? Well, one of the main reasons is my growing interest for the clean energy sector gained during my Polytechnic internship stint. During my internship back in 2018, I had the opportunity to be attached to the Business Development Division of Sembcorp Solar Singapore. At the beginning of my internship, most of my mentors guided me and potentially take their time to teach me. And then they showed me around the business operations in Sembcorp Solar, despite their busy work schedule. One of my favorite experiences was being able to participate in roadshows and exhibitions with my mentors. During these roadshows and exhibitions, I had the opportunity to engage with various representatives from the clean energy sector. In addition, my internship stint allowed me to acquire new practical skills in using various softwares for designing solar photovoltaic systems, which complemented the theoretical knowledge that I learned in school. However, the 5-month internship stint was just too short for me, and I felt that there are too many things in the solar industry that I can still learn about. Hence, my passion and interest in the clean energy sector spurred me to extend my employment with Sembcorp Solar for an additional 7 months as a contract staff. I was then rotated to the operation and maintenance department, where I assisted in the maintenance of solar PV monitoring system and worked with contractors to improve the monitoring system design. I gained a better understanding of how the industry tracks the amount of energy that is generated from the solar PV systems and how the efficiency of solar PV systems are being monitored. I'm truly grateful for the wonderful learning opportunities that my mentors have provided me at Sembcorp Solar, and I hope that in the near future, I'll be able to play a part and apply what I learned to contribute meaningfully to the clean energy sector. Today, I'm excited to be appointed as an energy ambassador, where I can advocate for the energy sector. This role allows me to be at the forefront of the evolving landscape and to learn and stay up to date on the latest developments, as well as the trends in the industry. Through this role, I hope to reach out to more of my peers and other youth to share my passion and knowledge. Hopefully, this will also encourage them to join and consider a career in the energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Ki. Next, let's hear from Zafia Arisha from ITE College West.
Good morning, Moslow and distinguished guests. I am Zafia Arisha, currently a Year 1 student pursuing my higher NITEC in Electrical Engineering at ITE College West. I would like to thank EMA as well as my lecturers for giving me such a great opportunity to be speaking to everyone here. I am truly grateful and honored for the chance to share my interest in the energy sector with all of you. Before I started my IT route, I had zero knowledge about electrical engineering or even the energy sector. It was also not my first choice of interest upon completing my N-levels. However, I was intrigued by how energy is distributed and its various applications. I decided to give it a go and enrolled into the Direct Poly Progression Program in Electrical Engineering in January this year. In particular, the AutoCAD drawing skills and switchboard knowledge which I attained through my Semester 1 modules have stirred my interest in advancing my knowledge in the electrical engineering field. I hope to grow in my knowledge and skills in my current higher NITEC course and further my studies in electrical engineering in Polytechnic. After spending about 10 months in my electrical engineering course in ITE, I realized the importance of energy in empowering our daily lives and developed my passion for the energy sector. As power is needed to maintain critical infrastructure such as hospitals around the clock, the energy sector remains essential for Singapore, especially during the current COVID-19 pandemic. This motivated me to pursue a career in the energy sector in the future, as I feel that I'll be able to make a meaningful contribution. When my lecturers told me that they will nominate me for EMA's Energy Ambassador Program, I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, and so I gratefully stepped up to this challenge. With my personal experience, I hope to contribute as an energy ambassador by sharing my interests in the energy sector with all my peers and juniors out there. Through this program, I also hope to learn more about the latest developments in the energy sector and Singapore's efforts in decarbonizing the power sector. I look forward to gaining more experience and knowledge so that I can play my part and have a head start when I embark on my career in the energy sector. Once again, I'm thankful to be appointed as an energy ambassador by EMA, and I'm committed to do my best in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ki and Zafia, for the wonderful sharing. I hope the EAP will continue to sustain your enthusiasm in energy-related issues and spur you to pursue a career in the energy sector. We will now take a group photo with our energy ambassadors. May I invite Moslow, Ki and Zafia back on stage for a photo. Everybody, please look at the photographer in front. Smile. Okay, next we will be taking a group photo with our energy ambassadors joining us online. For the energy ambassadors on Zoom, please turn on your cameras as we'll be taking a virtual photo together. Can we have everyone smile at the camera, please? On my cue, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody. May I now invite Ki and Zafia back to your seats, please, and Moslo to remain on stage for the next segment. We shall now commence our award ceremony for the Energy Industry Scholarship 2021. The Energy Industry Scholarship is Singapore's first dedicated scholarship for the energy sector. It aims to inspire students to embark on a rewarding, meaningful, and stable career in the energy sector. We are pleased to have with us today Ms. Janice Bong, Executive Director, Power and Gas from Keppel Infrastructure, Mr. Tan Cheng Teck, Executive Vice President, Operations and Maintenance from Senoko Energy, and Mr. Michael Wong, Chief Operating Officer from Tuas Power, to award the scholarships to the students. The first scholarship award from Keppel Merlimau Cogen goes to Brian Low Zi Yao. Brian is currently pursuing a diploma in mechatronics and robotics at Singapore Polytechnic. May I now invite Ms. Moslo, Ms. Bong, and Brian to take a photo on stage. Now we can't forget the importance of family at such significant milestones, so let's take one with Brian's family as well. Can we have everyone smile at the camera, please? Thank you, Moslo, Ms. Bong, and Brian and family. The next scholarship award from Senoko Energy goes to Muhammad Harith bin Hidayat. Harith is currently pursuing a diploma in electrical and electronic engineering at Singapore Polytechnic. May I invite Moslo, Mr. Tan, and Harith to take a photo on stage. Okay, please look at the camera. Now let's take one with Harith's family as well. Can we have everybody look at the camera? Okay. Everybody look at the photographer, please. Thank you, Moslo, Mr. Tan, and Harith and family. The third scholarship award from Tuas Power goes to Wang Ting Hong Wesley. Wesley is currently pursuing a diploma in aerospace electronics at Singapore Polytechnic. May I invite Moslo, Mr. Wong, and Wesley to take a photo on stage. Everyone look at the photographer. Okay, let's take a photo with Wesley's family as well. Everyone smile at the photographer, please. Thank you, Moslo, Mr. Wong, and Wesley and family. May I now invite Brian and Harith back on stage for a group photo with Moslow. Alright, please look at the photographer in front. On my cue, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Moslow and scholars. May I invite you to take your seats, please? Congratulations once again to the Energy Industry Scholarship recipients. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Keppel Merlimau Cogen, Sunoco Energy, and Tuas Power for sponsoring this year's scholarships, and Ms. Bong, Mr. Tan, and Mr. Wong for joining us here today. We have now come to the end of today's program, and we hope that everyone has a better understanding of the energy story and are inspired to make a difference in Singapore's energy future. Now, we would like to share the results of the word cloud posted earlier. If you could have the results now. Yeah, so we see the most common word would be solar, and followed by sustainability and also innovation. Before you log off, we would like to invite all participants to provide your feedback on today's program through the gov.sg form. We would love to hear from you and understand how we can make this program more exciting for you. You will be able to access today's quiz on Singapore's energy sector after completing the feedback form. Again, I encourage you to participate, as 20 students will have the chance to redeem a $10 GrabFood voucher each if they answer all questions in a quiz correctly in the fastest time. We would like to thank Moslow, Dr. Lim, and Ms. Tan, and everyone in the audience today for joining us this morning. It's been a wonderful pleasure to be your MC, and we hope that you have gained some useful insights on the energy sector today.